For many years I did not collect any freighter models because they didn't really convince me, and to be fair, when I started collecting some of them, many still were quite underwhelming. Only a few were okay, and even fewer were actually really impressing me. But how about this model, which is a custom model? That is what we want to find out, and we'll find out right after the drop. With that, hello and welcome to a new episode of Review Where today we'll take a closer look at an Airbus A330-200P2F of Qantas Freight, a custom model made by TWC Customs based on a donor model from Herpa Wings. That means the box is of course also coming from Herpa, but he has modified it, as you can see here, and I really do like the effort. Of course, he is still trapped with the overall box design of Herpa Wings. The layout they're giving him here doesn't really give him much opportunity to customize the box, but I think he has done a great job overall doing what he can. And here she is, the Airbus A330-200P2F, which stands for passenger to freighter, which means this used to be a passenger aircraft and was converted into a cargo aircraft. And Qantas Freighter is operating this aircraft type, and now I have it as a custom model because Herpa is incapable of doing stuff like that. With the help of TWC Customs, who used a donor model from Herpa Wings and decals coming from Malefiska. So let's see what they have cooked up for me this time around. And we start off with a look at the tail section, where we have the iconic Qantas branding on the vertical stabilizer. On top of the stabilizer, just above the kangaroo, we do find the last two letters of the registration code. And if we then take a look at the fuselage, well, here we of course have the full registration code of the aircraft, and next to that we have the Australian flag. We do also have a bit of detailing around the APU exhaust here at the very tail of the aircraft. Now, on top of the fuselage we then find two sat domes. When I look at images of the real aircraft, it looks like the counterpart in real life just only have the front sat dome, but this is a custom model and the donor model had two sat domes. I can definitely live with that. I think more noticeable here is just the fact that TWC Custom has actually added a beacon, which is a hand-painted detail he added. I've seen that now on quite a few of his custom models that I have bought from him so far, and I really do like the effort. Now, if we move to the front of the aircraft, we can see across the fuselage the writing of Qantas Freight. What we should, however, also notice is underneath that, and actually across the fuselage, the deactivated former cabin windows. Of course, it being a passenger aircraft, these cabin windows exist, but they are not needed anymore, so they are deactivated, and that's a really lovely detail to have across the fuselage. Really emphasizes the P2F factor. Of course, we then also have the main cargo hatch. Apart from static ports, sensors and markings, really lovely work. We have some lovely detailing in the cabin door, and next to that we have a bit of writing which says operated by, underneath that then the logo and writing of Express Freighters Australia. For the cockpit section itself, we then have the cockpit windows. I would have wished for the window wipers here, but we then do find the Qantas logo, and underneath that we have a red stripe in real life that does say Southern Cross, which I believe is the name of the aircraft. Then we can move on to the engine nacelles, which for me is a real highlight on this aircraft model. We have the silver leading edge, we have some safety markings and the Qantas branding. But then just notice the detailing we also have on the pylon to which the nacelles are attached. And I mean, that's just going beyond and above. For me, the detailing here is so lovely. This really elevates the not just the model itself, but like the physical detailing of these engines, which is also really not bad coming from Herpa Wings. For example, here, where we from the front can see the engine fan blades. And then we can also move on to the wings. Taking a closer look at that, we can see we have the different flap slats and spoilers carved out quite nicely, and we have some different shades of grey for additional detailing. On the underside of the wings, we have more nice physical detailing and the full registration code of the aircraft. The A330-200, of course, also has winglets, where TWC Custom has colored them in red in alignment with the real aircraft. Then of course we also have the landing gear. That is the standard landing gear that Herpa uses for all the A330s, looking nice at the main landing gear, and also the front landing gear really nice and upgraded by TWC Custom by adding some markings here. Really lovely work. On the belly of the aircraft we then have the Qantas branding, and notice it's not been destroyed because the hole that used to be here in the fuselage from the donor model has been filled in by TWC Customs. I love it. We can also notice the ram air intakes, and then last but certainly not least, we of course have the remaining doors to the cargo compartments, also here upgraded by TWC Customs with some really lovely detailing here at the back of the aircraft, but certainly also here at the front of the aircraft. So there we have it, the Airbus A330-200P2F of Qantas Freight, a custom model made by TWC Customs based on a donor model from Herpa Wings in scale 1:500. And what can we say about this aircraft model? Now, in terms of detailing, TWC Customs has once again done a really wonderful piece of work here. I especially love the detailing we have around the engine section, the nacelles here, the pylon. I mean, that's really amazing work. I love the look of that. And by the way, the Qantas logo on the engine is also on the inner side. I just didn't quite catch it on camera here, but it is on both sides of the nacelle. So that's really, really cool. Then, of course, I really love how with the decals of Malefiska, they have worked out the P2F feeling of this aircraft, it being a former passenger aircraft and having been converted into a freighter with the deactivated windows. Now, I fully get that if someone would look at images of the real aircraft, you might say, perhaps these deactivated windows are kind of oversaturated a bit in the sense of being too visible on the model itself, and perhaps that is correct, but this is one of these details which the real aircraft does have, but in real life you would have to get really close to actually see it. So on most images it would kind of disappear. So either you leave it away on the model, or you do it as you do it here, where it, if you were to scale it up again, it would be overly visible. But there isn't really a middle ground. Either you add it or you leave it away, and for me, I really like that they did add it, but that's of course a bit of personal taste, what you prefer. Now, in terms of the colors, with decals, I have often said that before, I have often noticed that the colors don't quite pop as much as in real life. They're always a little bit less saturated, and I would say it's perhaps also the same here. However, I still think they have managed to get a decent amount of oomph into the colors of the decals. And they are fairly close to the color we have on the tail, so the painted parts of the model. I would, however, say overall, perhaps in the red, for my personal taste, a tad too dark. But I will always give custom models more leeway in terms of colors, because custom model makers do not have the luxury of getting color codes from the airlines. They have to look at images and mix their colors themselves and guess their way to the right color. As I said, for me, my gut feeling is that it is just a tad too dark, but I have definitely seen images where you get this color. So it's just a personal feeling. A little bit brighter would not have hurt the aircraft model, but I still think it looks really, really nice. And to go full circle and coming back to the beginning of the video, as I said, for many years I didn't really collect freighters because they just didn't really interest me, mainly because the models just didn't convince me. And since I started collecting, many still didn't convince me. Few were okay, and only occasionally I was quite happy with them. This is definitely falling in the last category of a freighter that makes me happy, because here I have the amount of detailing that I would like to see on all my freighters. This is a model that makes me happy, and a model that I would love to put into one of my airport setups. But what are your thoughts on this custom model? Let me know in the comments section below. And with that, we have reached the end of today's episode. If you have enjoyed the video, then feel free to leave a like. If you're new around here, why not hit subscribe? With that, thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.